stop for a second. What if I told you that sometimes you don't need a long paragraph, a perfect selfie, or 100 messages to stay on a man's mind? Sometimes 3 simple words can create a moment he keeps replaying long after the conversation ends. And no, I'm not talking about saying, "I love you." I'm talking about words that touch something deeper. Words that make him feel seen. Words that make him feel respected. Words that make him wonder about you when you're no longer talking. Because here's something many women don't understand. A man may forget a conversation, but he rarely forgets how a woman made him feel. You can talk to him for an hour and leave no impression, or you can say one powerful sentence at the right moment, walk away, and suddenly he finds himself thinking about you while he's driving, working, eating, lying in bed, or scrolling through his phone. That is the power of emotional impact. And if you've been chasing his attention, sending message after message, wondering why he isn't responding the way you want, I want you to hear this carefully. The goal is not to make him obsessed with you. The goal is to become a woman whose presence has meaning. Because when your presence has meaning, your absence has weight. And the 3 words I'm talking about today are simple. I trust you. Now, before you misunderstand me, I'm not telling you to blindly trust a man who has given you reasons not to trust him. No trust is earned. Trust is built through consistency. Trust is proven through actions. But when a man has shown you that he is dependable and you sincerely tell him, "I trust you," something powerful can happen inside him because men are rarely celebrated for the invisible things they carry. A man can work all day and nobody asks how heavy the responsibility feels. He can solve problems for everybody and nobody notices the pressure behind the solution. He can keep moving forward while secretly wondering whether anybody believes in him. And then one woman looks at him and says 3 words, "I trust you." Those words can land differently because you're not simply complimenting his appearance. You're not begging for his attention. You're not trying to convince him to love you. You're communicating something deeper. You have shown me enough for me to believe in you, and that can stay with a man. But there's another reason these words can be powerful. When you tell someone you trust them, you create emotional responsibility. You are saying, "I see something in you." And when a man genuinely values you, he doesn't want to disappoint the woman who sees that something in him. Think about it. If someone you don't care about criticizes you, you might shrug your shoulders. But if someone you deeply respect says, "I believe in you," those words can follow you for years. That's because emotional connection isn't created by constant communication. It's created by significance. And ladies, you need to understand the difference. Attention is not connection. Moths are not connection. Chemistry is not always connection. Connection happens when someone feels understood, respected, appreciated, and emotionally safe around you. That is why chasing a man can actually work against you. When you constantly ask, "Why didn't you text me? Where were you? Do you still like me? Why aren't you giving me attention?" You may be trying to create closeness, but you can accidentally create pressure. And pressure doesn't create longing. Space creates room for emotion to breathe. If you are always present, always available, always initiating, always explaining, and always trying to keep the relationship alive by yourself, he never gets the opportunity to experience what your absence feels like. But when you have your own life, your own goals, your own confidence, and your own peace, something changes. You stop asking, "How can I make him think about me?" And you start asking, "How can I become unforgettable by being genuinely myself?" That is a completely different mindset. A high-value woman doesn't perform for attention. She doesn't manipulate. She doesn't play childish games. She doesn't disappear just to punish somebody. She doesn't pretend not to care when she actually does. She simply understands her value. And because she understands her value, She doesn't need to chase someone into recognizing it. That is where your power begins. Now, imagine this. You're talking to a man who has been showing consistency. He has been keeping his word. He has been there when he said he would be. He has been making an effort. And instead of showering him with endless praise, you simply look at him and say, I trust you. Then you continue living your life. Do you understand the difference? You gave him appreciation without giving away your identity. You gave him encouragement without begging for validation. You gave him something meaningful without demanding anything in return. That is emotional maturity. And emotional maturity is attractive. But there's something else you need to remember. The words only work when they are real. If you say, I trust you to manipulate him, it loses its power. If you say it because you want him to chase you, it becomes a tactic. If you say it while secretly monitoring his every move, it becomes a contradiction. Your words become powerful when your behavior agrees with them. If you trust someone, you don't need to interrogate them every 5 minutes. If you respect someone, you don't need to control them. If you value yourself, you don't need to compete for attention. And if someone repeatedly breaks your trust, you don't keep saying, I trust you, hoping they will magically become different. You step back, you observe, you protect your peace. Because confidence isn't pretending everything is okay. Confidence is knowing what you will accept and what you will not. Now, let's go deeper. There is another reason a man may think about a woman who speaks with emotional intelligence. She makes him feel different, not controlled, not judged, not pressured. Different. When a man feels that he can be himself around you, when he feels respected instead of constantly tested, he may begin associating you with peace. And people naturally return to places where they feel peace. That doesn't mean you should become his therapist. It doesn't mean you should tolerate disrespect. It doesn't mean you should fix his problems. It means that when you interact with him, you bring emotional stability instead of emotional chaos. That is memorable because the world is already loud. Everybody wants something. Everybody is demanding attention. Everybody is trying to prove something. So when someone enters your life and gives you a moment of peace, you notice, you remember, you miss it. And that is what you should aim for. Not obsession, not manipulation, not psychological games, meaning. Because when you create meaning, you don't have to force memory. Memory happens naturally. He remembers your laugh. He remembers the way you looked at him. He remembers the conversation you had. He remembers how you encouraged him when he doubted himself. He remembers that you believed in him when everybody else was demanding something from him. And suddenly, your name appears in his mind without you sending a single text. That is the difference between chasing attention and creating impact. But there's one more thing I want you to understand. Never use powerful words to cover weak standards. You can tell a man, I trust you. But you must also be willing to walk away when his actions repeatedly prove that trust was misplaced. You can tell him, I believe in you. But you cannot believe in his potential more than he believes in himself. You can love somebody deeply without abandoning yourself. You can care about him without chasing him. You can miss him without messaging him. You can want him without needing him. That is emotional strength. And emotional strength is what makes your presence powerful. So if you're listening to this right now and thinking about a particular man, don't rush to send him a message just because you want him to think about you. First, ask yourself one question. Am I trying to connect with him, or am I trying to control his reaction? Because those are two completely different things. If you're trying to control his reaction, stop. If you're trying to connect honestly, speak from the heart. And if the relationship has earned it, those 3 words can be simple. I trust you. 3 words. But when they come from sincerity, self-respect, and emotional maturity, They can carry more weight than 100 desperate messages. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can say to someone is not what makes them chase you. It's what reminds them that they were valued in your presence. Because the woman a man remembers is not always the woman who gave him the most attention. Sometimes it's the woman who made him feel understood. The woman who believed in him. The woman who had a life of her own. The woman who could love deeply without losing herself. And when that woman walks away from the conversation, she doesn't have to ask, "Are you thinking about me?" Because she knows she left something meaningful behind. And that is where the real power begins. Because when you stop trying to force someone to think about you, you become more focused on becoming someone worth remembering. You stop counting how many minutes it takes him to respond. You stop checking whether he has seen your story. You stop creating imaginary scenarios in your head. You stop asking your friends, "Why hasn't he texted me?" And you start asking yourself a better question. Am I living a life that I'm proud of? That question changes everything, because your attractiveness is not built through how desperately someone wants you. Your attractiveness is built through how deeply you value yourself. A woman who knows herself does not need constant reassurance. She can enjoy affection without becoming dependent on it. She can appreciate attention without needing it to feel worthy. She can love a man without making him the center of her universe. And that balance is powerful. So when you say those three words, "I trust you," don't say them because you want him to chase you. Say them because he earned them. Say them because you genuinely see character in him. Say them because you appreciate the way he shows up. And then let the words breathe. Don't immediately follow them with 10 questions. Don't say, "I trust you, but where were you?" Don't say, "I trust you, but are you talking to somebody else?" Don't say, "I trust you, so prove it." If you trust him, allow your behavior to reflect that trust. And if he gives you a reason not to trust him, believe what his actions are showing you. Because sometimes the strongest response is not another conversation. Sometimes it is silence. Sometimes it is distance. Sometimes it is choosing yourself. You have to understand something about relationships. You cannot convince the wrong person to become the right person. You cannot love someone into emotional maturity. You cannot chase someone into commitment. You cannot text someone into valuing you. And you cannot give more and more of yourself hoping that one day they will finally recognize your worth. Your worth was never on their recognition. Your worth existed before they met you. That is the mindset you need. When you walk into a relationship knowing your value, you stop negotiating against yourself. You stop accepting crumbs because you are afraid there might not be another meal. You stop tolerating disrespect because you are scared of being alone. You stop shrinking your standards because you want somebody to stay. And you realize something beautiful. Being alone is not the same as being lonely. Sometimes being alone is where you finally hear yourself again. Sometimes distance is where you discover your strength. Sometimes losing someone is what forces you to stop losing yourself. And if a man truly values you, your confidence will not scare him away. Your standards will not scare him away. Your independence will not scare him away. Your peace will not scare him away. The right man will respect it. He will appreciate that you have a life beyond him. He will want to add to your happiness, not become the only source of it. And that is the kind of connection worth building. So let's go back to those three words. I trust you. They are not magic. They are not a secret formula. They are not a trick that guarantees a man will suddenly become obsessed with you. They are powerful because they represent something deeper. They represent respect. They represent confidence. They represent emotional security. And when spoken honestly to the right person, they can make him pause. They can make him recognize that you are not treating him like every other man. You are responding to his character You are acknowledging his actions. And that kind of recognition can stay in someone's mind. But remember this. Never give someone trust that their behavior has not earned. A woman with self-respect does not hand out unlimited access to her heart. She watches. She listens. She observes consistency. She pays attention to actions. Because words can sound beautiful. Actions tell the truth. A man can say he cares about you. But does he show up? He can say he respects you. But does he honor your boundaries? He can say he wants you. But does he make room for you? He can tell you everything you want to hear, but does his behavior match his promises? That is what matters. And when the answer is yes, don't be afraid to appreciate him. Men need appreciation too. They need to know that their efforts are noticed. They need to know that somebody sees more than their mistakes. They need to know that their presence matters. Sometimes a simple sentence can give a man encouragement he didn't know he needed. You handled that well. I'm proud of you. I trust you. These words are powerful when they are sincere. But never forget to give yourself the same encouragement. Tell yourself, I trust myself. I believe in myself. I am proud of myself. Because the most important relationship you will ever build is the one you have with yourself. If you cannot trust yourself to walk away from disrespect, you will tolerate it. If you cannot trust yourself to survive rejection, you will chase people who do not choose you. If you cannot trust yourself to be alone, you will accept relationships that make you feel lonely. But when you trust yourself, everything changes. You stop begging, you stop forcing, you stop performing. You stop trying to become somebody else just to be loved. You become comfortable saying, this is who I am. This is what I want. This is what I deserve. And if you cannot give it to me, I will still be okay. That is real power. And ironically, that is often when people begin to notice you differently, because confidence has a language of its own. You can hear it in the way a woman speaks. You can see it in the way she carries herself. You can feel it in the way she responds to rejection. She doesn't collapse when somebody pulls away. She doesn't beg someone to stay. She doesn't spend every night wondering what she did wrong. She reflects. She learns. She grows. And she keeps moving. That woman becomes difficult to forget, not because she played games, not because she manipulated anybody, but because she had something rare. She had self-respect. And self-respect changes the way people experience you. So if you want a man to think about you, stop making that your mission. Make your mission to live so fully that you don't have to chase anybody's attention. Build your goals. Take care of your mind. Take care of your body. Spend time with people who genuinely love you. Work on your dreams. Law more. Learn more. Travel when you can. Concrete something. Become stronger. Become wiser. Become calmer. Become the woman who does not need somebody else to complete the story. Then, when love enters your life, it becomes an addition to your happiness rather than the foundation of it. And that changes the entire relationship. Because now you are not saying, please choose me. You are saying, I hope we choose each other. There is a huge difference. One comes from fear. The other comes from confidence. One says, I need you to validate me. The other says, I value you, but I value myself too. That is the kind of woman who can love deeply without losing herself. And if he is the right man, he will recognize it. He may not tell you immediately. He may not have the perfect words. He may not even realize why your presence feels different, but he will feel the difference. He will remember the conversations. He will remember the woman who gave him encouragement without demanding control. He will remember the woman who trusted him without becoming dependent on him. He will remember the woman who could walk away from an unhealthy situation without destroying herself. And sometimes that is why a man begins thinking about you long after the conversation ends, not because you manipulated his mind, because you touched his heart. So the next time you speak to someone you genuinely care about, don't overwhelm him with attention. Give him something meaningful. Look him in the eyes. Tell him what you genuinely appreciate. And if he has earned it, say those three simple words. I trust you. Then let your actions speak. Don't chase the response. Don't demand reassurance. Don't sit by the phone waiting. Go live your life. Because your power isn't in getting somebody to think about you all day. Your power is becoming so secure in yourself that whether they think about you or not, you remain whole. That is freedom. And here's the final lesson. The woman who desperately wants to be remembered often forgets herself. The woman who focuses on becoming unforgettable through confidence, character, kindness, and self-respect doesn't have to force anything. Her presence speaks, her absence speaks, her standards speak, her silence speaks, her life speaks. And when the right man encounters a woman like that, he doesn't need to be manipulated into thinking about her. He remembers her naturally, so don't chase his mind. Build your presence. Don't demand his attention. Become secure in your own. Don't beg him to recognize your value. Recognize it yourself. And don't use 3 words as a trick. Use them as a reflection of who you are. I trust you. 3 simple words, but only powerful when they come from a woman who knows what trust means, knows what she deserves, and knows that love should never require her to abandon herself. Because the ultimate goal isn't to make him miss you. The ultimate goal is to make sure you never lose yourself trying to be missed. And when you finally understand that, you stop chasing love. You start attracting healthier love. You stop begging for attention. You start commanding respect through your standards. You stop wondering whether you're enough. You finally realize that you always were. And that is when everything changes. Not because you learned how to control someone else's feelings, but because you learned how to control your own life. The right person will never require you to become less of yourself just to keep them. The right connection will not make you constantly question your worth. And the right man will not need to be chased into recognizing a woman who knows her value. So stand tall, love deeply, speak honestly, trust wisely, and most importantly, never forget who you are, because the moment you stop chasing someone else's attention is often the moment you finally become powerful enough to command your own. And sometimes that is exactly what makes you unforgettable.